Transform Together, das Podcast-Meetup. Von und mit Johannes Schartau und Holistikon.
Welcome to Transform Together, the Holistikon podcast meetup. I'm Johannes Schartau, and in our last episode, I actually managed to use the wrong name for the podcast. And my really nice colleague, Kali, she had to edit this out. So we're off to a great start because, you know, what could go wrong? This is already perfect. This is episode 2 today, and I will be talking to Anna Jackson and Fisher Qua. They have been liberating structures maestros from the very beginning, and they helped spread liberating structures in Europe by touring multiple countries. They have a shared practice called Lucky Hunch, and they offer something that they call Speculative Facilitation. Anna and Fisher, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
So, pleased for you to show up today. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I will hand over to you for the interactive part. We get to experience some cool stuff which won't be recorded. So everybody who's listening, you're absolutely missing out. And this should be a lesson for the future to make space for this podcast and the meetup part, because this will be lost. And only the people here will know what we have done. All right, Anna, Fisher, do you feel ready to get into this? They're nodding, super excited.
I'm kind of waiting for Fisher to introduce his voice at some point. You gonna talk, buddy?
Sure, I'll talk.
We're ready. Great. I'll just, this is a conversation. Let's get into it. So you have a shared practice that is called Lucky Hunch, and your approach is called Speculative Facilitation. I'm going to ask more questions about this, but what I'm really interested in is what was your path to creating all of this? So how did you end up at, calling this Lucky Hunch and also calling this Speculative Facilitation?
I'll go first. You tell the story first.
Yeah. So I think maybe this is good context for the whole conversation. Right around Fisher and I started to work closely together in like 2019, but we had known each other for almost a decade before that. And I sort of hated him, right? This is like part of the story. I was like very annoyed by all the attention he got from one of our shared mentors. I just found the whole situation very obnoxious. And then we started to work together and we became pretty good working partners, and it started to get really fun. And if you've had experiences where you sync up with someone that you both have a similar practice, I think it's similar for like musicians or people who cook, and you start to realize you can sort of combine, things get really exciting and really fun. And that's what happened on our first workshops tour together. We just had all kinds of fun with a lot of the people that are on this call. And what started to happen was we would get sort of an inkling that there would be a thread to follow, and there would be a sort of, over time, as we worked together longer, we described it as like, and I think this is existing language, like a long hunch. There's something over there. We're going to see if we can sort of follow that. And that's where I think once things started to get pretty interesting for us in the practice, even if it wasn't interesting for other folks, it got pretty interesting for us, and fun. We sort of built out from that. And that's where Lucky Hunch came from. But in 2020, I think because of the way that COVID shifted our context and threw everything into some degree of creative destruction, that hunch, some of the hunches we've been following became like things locked into place, and it became possible for us to try out a lot of stuff. And that's where some of the speculations, indulgences really got fully exercised. So, yeah. What would you add, Fisher? What did I miss?
Well, I think that last part that you were just describing has a little bit to do with this theme that we were talking about a bit for today, was like these things that were speculative for us early on became relevant later. The things that we had, like, I don't even know if they were hunches. They were just like playful, sometimes nonsensical, sometimes speculative because they were more deliberate or careful, became relevant, especially during the pandemic. And that was kind of an interesting observation to think back on. Anna was telling a story of doing a learning history with an organization, and you should tell the rest of the story, but the person she was doing the learning history with had this moment of kind of, I don't know if it was crisis or sadness or I don't know what it was, but sort of said, our organization is struggling to figure out how to stay relevant. We were so immediately needed during the pandemic. And now what do we do? How do we maintain that kind of relevance in our community?
Yeah, they had, I think there's other examples of this around. I think one of the reasons we thought, thinking about transforming together, sometimes things are much clearer in retrospect, right? The retrospective coherence thing is real. And we all went through a quarantining part of COVID. We went through this shared thing where things really shifted. This person that I was talking to, I was doing a big retrospective with her, and she talks about it was lightning in a bottle for her organization. And that's not how it works over time. So how does resonance and relevance continue through time? It can feel very scary unless you just embrace that you just get to be irrelevant sometimes. And that's like maybe awesome and very freeing, Sweet.
So I know that you have your roots in liberating structures. When we talk about speculative facilitation, how much of liberating structures is in there, or how much do you feel like you have evolved from this? How would you explain this to someone?
I think probably for me, like the so much of my learning around group dynamics happened first with liberating structures, like as my first language of group work. And so as a result, I can't separate the two. It's like especially the underlying logic of liberating structures, the idea that there are elements that make up our interactions and can be specified at any moment to change what's possible or change the results, is fundamental, I think, to the way I work. And so I still use all of the methods all of the time because I think they make space for something speculative to happen, or they accept that, a speculative result is always there. And so I don't really distinguish between the two or separate the two. It's hard for me to say, oh, it's not liberating structures, it's something else. I think speculative facilitation, just a playful name that Anna and I had for describing the thing that we both enjoy about group work, which is the uncertainty and the risk that comes along with novelty. Would you say that's true, Anna? How do you think about the relationship between the two?
I think of liberating structures as like as a network of people in a shared practice. I think of it as the way that we describe experience interactive structures. I don't think of it purely as like a repertoire. So I think any method that I might use, I can organize and describe in a liberating structures way. So to me, there's the broader structure that I can think about through. There aren't that many liberating structures that are just liberating structures and nothing else. They all come out of somewhere else, or they at least all come out of a shared practice together. So for me, it feels like, sure, maybe speculative facilitation is a way for me to think about the umbrella of it. And there's no facilitation I want to be involved with that is not speculative at some level. Like there's no illusion of control ever in working with humans and the ingredients that are the humans, right? So everything we do has to be speculative at some level. So I don't even think, we were talking about this yesterday, I don't know that it does exist in a way that isn't speculative. However, I think both of us, this is maybe how I heard what Fisher just described, what LS and complexity informed work can do is sort of allow us to just honor and set the expectation that there's like always mystery, there's always, uncertainty, there's always risk. So let's just make the most of it. And that feels good to me. So if you were to look at our designs when we're doing like proper, like we're like, okay, let's go full on, just be very, very like speculative in the design, you would recognize things and you would also be like, oh, that's odd. Maybe that's a thing that like came from somewhere else and has evolved into this, right? I think you would recognize, but it's like twists on it. Or we would maybe take traditional or liberating structures that are very recognizable and do something like maybe for us, what is something difficult with the content of the thing, which is what we'll do later. It's just a little push on the experience of it in a way that's maybe a little more challenging.
You mentioned so many interesting things, and something that I would like to go a bit deeper in is that I often have people have a certain expectation of what the outcome of a group process could be. So often what I hear, for example, is in the end, I would everyone, to kind of, just align, or like, I want everyone kind of to have the same opinion. You were talking a lot about ambiguity and speculation in there and just keeping that alive. Could you just let us know a bit how you navigate this maybe expectation of certain people in the group and this desire to have clarity and uniformity, and how do you balance that with that complexity and the entire speculation?
No, it's like such a tension. We're like starting to talk about client work, right? Even if it's not like, it's like whether the client it's just community, right? But you're designing with people usually, or for and around a set of, dynamics related to that. So that's one reason that we like the Lucky Hunch and like speculative facilitation frame, because it's like, all right, at least we're setting people up to know that like we might push to find where there are real ranges of, because often, right, people are trying to converge. It's often a thing of like, right, alignment at least is like not homogeneity, right? Like at least alignment has some space for like, depending on how people are thinking about it. So yeah, it's a tricky part of partnering with people. And that's where I think when we do community sessions where we're all sort of there to be like, all right, let's try a thing, it's very different from when we're doing something and a business needs to accomplish something, or a community group that is organized to like feed the people in their community. Their purpose has high stakes, right? Like they need to be able. So I think for me, there's some dimension of it that relates to like the human ingredients, the way that we connect and relate to each other, and the variation that exists in that, and honoring that and helping people that are hosting hold that and honor that and see that as part of their role. And then there's the part that's like, by the end of 4 hours, we're going to get to this thing. And I don't know. I feel like that's a perpetual challenge for all of us, that like, I'm not going to say anything interesting right now about it, right? Like Fisher, you might have, I try my best to do both. It's a good, wicked question, right? It's like holding space for all the variation, uncertainty, and like, disappointment. That's something Fisher's good at. Just honoring disappointment,
That's like the The thing that makes me think of Johannes is usually people will use the phrase, I want people to be on the same page, or we need to get on the same page. And the way I've tried to sometimes reframe that for them is like, we're never going to be on the same page. Once in a while, we'll be in the same chapter. We're lucky if we get in the same book. Often we want to be in the same stack of the library, but frequently we're just all wandering around, luckily in the same building. It's like you're never gonna all end up on the same, having magically like found your way to the same book and gotten on the same page. And it's actually probably not that productive to be on the same page. If you're really thinking about an adaptive organization or community, you need people reading from different books at different moments. And then if they still don't accept that, we'll play What is the Pig? And be like, we're not even going to have the same words to agree on here. Like the words aren't even going to have the same meaning. Like we're already hopeless. So let's start from that place and figure out how we actually work with the reality that you're never going to get people on the same page because we're not even going to share the same language. And so how do you use that as an asset and benefit as opposed to something to push towards? How do you let that reality pull you to a different solution as opposed to pushing one that is assumed by being on the same page, you'll get something specific to happen as a result?
So like you work with people and you like, they want alignment, right? So like for me, it's like embracing good enough. It's like doing that pep talk, doing these pep talks or exercises to help people get, in this space of like not being fully disappointed, but more like just working with the variation that will exist, but also making progress. Usually people, once they see and feel progress, because we get real work done, right? Like then they start to realize like, okay, this is more what's possible. Or that flat strategic plan that we have, it's just a snapshot. It's a document or a snapshot that represents the fullness of how we are cohering together as a group now because of the various things we've done over 6 months or 3 days or half a day. It's a way to communicate. It's not necessarily going to represent, and we're going to try to honor the fuller picture when we're together, and also know that we need to communicate out to the world or to each other in a way that we can reference. And that to me feels like at least an integrity. Do you know?
Yeah, it's making me think the complexity framing on that for me is like that idea of punctuated equilibrium. Like at very specific moments we achieve equilibrium, but otherwise we're just like ourselves, our organizations, our teams, they're in disequilibrium all the time. And so you need those moments of like punctuated equilibrium where it feels stable enough for people to navigate the perpetual uncertainty that they're in.
Right. So when you work in groups, I'm assuming not everything is always great, or you have moments that you're happier about than other moments. What do you look for in a group process, if it's possible to describe, to kind of say, what are some indicators that let you go, now we're making progress, or I think this is productive?
Anna hinted at this. I often use, it sort of is meant to deliberately diffuse some of the cynicism in a group, but I'll say like my primary evaluation metric is that everybody has an even distribution of disappointment. Like as long as the disappointment is equally shared, we've done our job well here. And it kind of horrifies the positive psychology people. It sort of horrifies the people that are a little more optimistic. And they know I'm not serious about it, but I am it's kind of semi-real. It's like, I don't want some people to be despairing and some people to be ecstatic. And I think it's just too rare for everybody to be ecstatic. So I'm like, okay, you can all equally hold the disappointment that is other humans and having to interact with them and do something together.
So just to check again, because often when I talk to people, they kind of hope I have this answer, but you haven't found the magic formula to make people in the group happy, the people who pay you happy, and make yourselves happy at the same time. Haven't found that yet?
I haven't.
I think setting people up, I will say the low expectations approach is great, except it doesn't, I feel like similar to the disappointment angle on the front end, the expectations, but that doesn't usually work if you're getting paid. You got to like have some degree of expectation with it. This is the reason I'm a horrible evaluator, Johannes. Like I work as an evaluator, and for me, thank goodness I have the complexity theory, like that frame, because I would like, my evaluation colleagues. So, so much better at being able to offer a structure that can be tracked. Do you know what I mean? They can offer something that they can evaluate. And for me, it's all the mushy stuff. Like, has attunement improved? Did a conflict surface and they were able to meaningfully, it's these really, really like group dynamic-y things. So I'm often looking for group functioning in whatever way I think about that with the group. I know what I know of the group to like change over time. And that's different than like a business outcome usually, right? But it really contributes to business outcomes. So
I'm just hoping to survive half the time. I'm like, I get in there, I'm like, can I just get out of this with myself intact? I can't even hold on to like what the outcome is.
Just for the people listening, multiple people on this call just kind of close their eyes and chuckle because apparently it feels familiar. Because this is something that I like to do. I like to project onto other people that they might have the solution and the perfect formula. Who do you suspect has that magic touch and that magic ability just to work magic all the time and solve problems immediately and just walk out, or just not even walk out, being carried out, I guess, by people cheering and everybody being happy? Who do you think of?
I mean, if you've interacted with Henry will solve everyone's problems. You're just gonna leave kind of probably
embattled. He's gonna make you work for it. But this is like, I think, Johannes, that's like one of the reasons. I think I can talk about this candidly and openly. Was like, I think I just have such a frustration with that impulse, maybe. And I have it, which is why I have frustration with it, right? Like I find it. And so like when I first started working with Fisher, our beloved mentor, who's like a dear friend, just like celebration. We love Fisher. Fisher is like the most brilliant facilitator. And I'm like, boo, group intelligence, boo. Like I hate that idea that someone has it, right? It can't be someone. It's the chemistry of the people who have gathered. So it like irks me, but it irks me so much because I have that impulse too. And so then I'm working so hard to be in, you know what I mean? I'm working so hard to like maintain that it is in the group and it is in the ingredients of the group that like so I think it's a very fun thing to imagine in a group setting being like, Nadia, do you have the answer to that? Or like, what do you think? And that's a very sweet way to like elevate different people in the, they're making sure that their contributions are like honored in the moment. But it's the pull to sort of have that quickly, or the pull to like have a way that I feel like I'm in constant resistance to, and it's like, some of my closest colleagues are very comfortable with authority. They're so brilliant people who have like taught so many grad school classes and university classes, and they're just comfortable being knowledge sharers. And like this kind of context is so uncomfortable, I think, for us, because the way that we're trained, right? Like we're trained to sort of try to turn it, and trained to try to like make it. And I find that, it's one of my like most intense inner tensions is like, I want to be able to just hold authority and say a thing and have it be correct and factual and accurate and like, so I think it's a good topic. I think like the idea of that and that it might live with anyone, even in any moment, is pretty interesting and makes me so uncomfortable because it makes me feel so comforted. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm with that. How is it?
I've been in situations where there was just authority in the room, and I just sped up the like it's like a shortcut, but there's a payoff. It doesn't come for free, and I think that is something that you really have to keep in mind. And sometimes I just long for that solution, just to be like, okay, maybe you with the tie on, maybe you make the decision for everybody else. But I know that in the long run, it's not that easy.
Always the one with the tie on, or like we got, if you're wearing your blazer, if you're like, yeah, costuming.
I think this is one of the things that I think Henry was very particularly clear about, is at least in organizations, for those of you who don't know who we're referencing when I say Henry, we're talking about Henry Litmanowicz, who's one of the two kind of co-developers of Liberating Structures. Henry was really clear that like there's organizational authority, and I don't know if he was really thinking about the wider forms of power, but at least in organizations, there is designated authority and roles. And something like simple liberating structure 1, 2, 4 all. 1, 2, 4 all actually works better in a situation where the authority is clear than in a situation where it's too widely distributed. So if you think about 1, 2, 4 all, it works best in a hierarchy as opposed to a flat community structure where somebody, let's say it's Henry, who's, was at the time a very high level executive, he could tap into the full intelligence of the group. I need, as the leader of this business unit, a recommendation about what we do for this new regulation in this country relative to this pharmaceutical we're developing. I need everybody in this room to contribute a recommendation to me right now. So everybody alone, think about your recommendation. In pairs, compare and talk about the recommendation. In groups of 4, I want one recommendation from each quartet. And it is my responsibility, and I have the authority from out of those recommendations to actually take a decision and carry it forward. If you don't have that authority layer, what happens then? You need like some highly involved participatory decision-making process to then evaluate what the groups of 4 generated. And so you need this whole other structure in place. And so I do appreciate the ways in which he thinks about holding and using authority even in a very highly distributed participatory approach or structure. But I think that's kind of an underappreciated dimension of the context in which you might use some of these methods.
All right, we're getting close to the end of our podcast section. I would be interested in the question, imagine I'm starting out as a facilitator, and I want to just improve. What is something that people, in your opinion, should try first? What is something that provides quick benefit?
All the people I know that really accelerated their familiarity with group process or group dynamics or group structure or facilitation, whatever framing you want to put around it, I think noticed that almost every interaction we're a part of is understructured, whether that is the community meeting at the farm that you're a part of, whether that is the check-in with your family in the evening, whether that is, a conversation with your religious group, whatever the situation is, there is almost always an understructured dimension to it. And the people I know that really sort of picked up and started working very quickly found those very low risk situations to bring a little bit more structure to. And as a result, kind of learned that it was trustworthy and that structure does have a possible benefit in those situations. So those were the people that I sort of observed growing their practice very quickly.
I think if you're just getting started and you got to do something with a group, Troika is a wonderful hedge. You got 3 people, everybody's chewing on something, everybody can contribute to each other. Like it's a wonderful method to give and receive and feel the wisdom of a group. And it's really easy to run. So if you want a quick win, you want to make some progress, it's I think a really good one for that. And I still love it. And it's incredibly well structured. It's very robust if you look through the different lenses that LS are organized around. It's got a lot going on.
Great. Thank you for this conversation. You're going to stay here and we'll do some interaction. Let me just wrap up. So I hope this session has given you some concrete ideas for your own transformation challenges. At Holisticon, we put into practice what we discuss and transform together. We provide companies with holistic support throughout the digital transformation process, from strategy and technology to organizational change. We make our customers more resilient, establish a future-proof agile culture, create new business models, and inspire people with better services and products. If you're facing similar challenges or are wondering how you can implement the ideas from this session in your organization, please feel free to contact us. You can find all the information you need at holisticon.de. And also don't miss our next Transform Together session on October 10th at 4 p.m. That is Central European Summertime. Our guest will be Anton Skorniakov, and he will be talking about his book, The Art of Slicing Work. And we're again going to have some interaction there, and you will learn how to slice any kind of project or initiative into valuable subsets and packages, and really looking forward to seeing you then.